I feel very strongly that people should just go for it. Try not to overthink it. You do want to have a plan, like, know what your vision is for what your podcast is going to be. Try to write that down, but don't let doubt stop you.
Hey guys, this is AviArya, father of 2 girls, 6 dogs, husband to a superwoman, a street car racer turned hotelier, now social media marketer and founder of Internet Moguls. Welcome to my channel. James, Loren, welcome to the AskAviArya Show, where we introduce internet moguls like yourselves to people in India, in Vancouver, and many parts of Asia. People like yourselves who understand technology, who understand how the human connection works. James, I always say the shortest distance between two human hearts is always a story. Tell somebody a story and you win them for life. So, just right off the bat, for our audiences, can you tell us your story?
Well, my story is a couple of weeks ago around Valentine's Day, I had an idea for a podcast. It was to feature, uh, it was a podcast that would feature new podcasters or up and coming podcasters. And so I threw an idea out there in a Facebook group. And did not have any experience with podcasting, just starting out, and the reception was awesome. I got a lot of offers for people to come on as guests to a show that did not exist. And so yeah, that's 2 weeks ago I had nobody interested in a podcast, and now I'm up to 30 interviews done to date, and I've got, I think, another 30 to go before I am actually able to launch later on this month. So I've been busy with that. Yeah, all of a sudden I'm thrust into the podcasting limelight.
Awesome, awesome. So, you want to tell us a little bit about when people talk about podcasts, they want to hear about gear. Would you like to talk to us a little bit about gear?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, my gear is extremely simple at this point right now. I wanted to kind of keep it, basic because, I'm just starting out. So I don't
Right.
want to spend a lot of money. So I did know that I wanted to get a decent microphone. So, I think that's probably the highest expense that I had. But yeah, I mean, it's all basic webcam stuff. Like I'm actually using an old iPhone for my webcam. That's working right now. But yeah, I mean, I think I spent less than $200. So the gear itself wasn't a lot of money. I mean, I tried to keep it as low as possible for that.
Excellent, excellent. So, what is how what is your monetization idea now?
Well, I don't think I've really thought that far down the road. I mean, I know that there are opportunities for monetization. I know that there's affiliate programs. There was a few people that actually contacted me to offer up, some sponsorship opportunities for some episodes. But to be honest with you, I really haven't thought about that. I've been really focused on getting these interviews done, and I want to start editing the podcast episodes so that they can be published later on, in a couple of weeks. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, James, we have a community in India and in Vancouver. Tell us how we can help you.
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, if somebody knows how to clone me, I think no, I'm just kidding. At this point right now, I mean, it's really, I don't think I really need like any resources or outside help at this point right now. I'm just really trying to get into a good cadence with the interviews and with editing the podcasts. So, I mean, at this point right now, it's actually fine as a one man show.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Um, can I continue asking you questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So, tell us, like what would be your advice to brand new podcasters? How should they start?
hmm Yeah, so I mean, I've had the opportunity to interview, like I said, about thirty podcasters so far to date, in just the last couple of weeks. And I ask that question too. Like, what is your advice to anybody who's interested in starting a podcast or who is starting a podcast? And I feel very strongly that people should just go for it. Try not to overthink it. You do want to have a plan, like, know what your vision is for what your podcast is going to be. Try to write that down, but don't let doubt stop you. At some point you're going to have to go for it. and you're going to have to live with your doubts, and
Oh,
it's gonna roll along with or without you. So I mean, that's kind of the position I was in, where it's like, oh, I guess I'm going to start doing this, because all these people are reaching out to me for interviews. So yeah, be open to uh, be open to anything really, but just do it.
in terms of like what kind of software do you use, like lip sync, Anchor? Tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so Zoom, obviously, I use Zoom to do my interviews. And then I'm using Captivate for my hosting, for the podcast host. And then I use
We just
Descript.
interviewed the founder of Captivate in the morning.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Was that Mark, I believe
Mark.
is his name?
Mark, yeah, just a couple of
Yeah.
hours ago. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, I'd love to meet him. Actually, I'm basing that greatness on, like, I went through one of his courses to kind of walk me through like how to prep for getting up to launch, and it was a great podcast. I think a great podcast series
I
of
can make an
lessons.
introduction if you want.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I mean,
Let me
I
just
love what he's up to. Um, I love their hosting as well. So
introduce Mark and James.
it's funny. I feel like I know Mark just because I've been with him I've
I
been
know,
like
right? I
watching
love
his
that part
videos for
because
these last couple of weeks. So it's like, yeah. Um, but yeah, I've been also using Descript for editing as well. So that's been a really valuable piece of software too.
okay, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. So, in terms of adding value to the audience, I like to flip it. What is that one question you think? What are the three questions I should ask you?
What are the three questions that I usually ask for people in terms of how they're providing value in their
Right.
podcast? Yeah, I mean, I think that what I do is I find what it is that they're trying to get at with their podcast. So one of the things that I ask is why should people listen to their podcast? What 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 is it that they want people to get out of the podcast? So that kind of those two questions right there kind of drive at the heart of like why they're doing it, but also like why should people feel compelled to listen to these people's podcasts? And then the other question that I usually ask too, that's kind of built around that is what's your vision for the podcast, a year or two down the road? And so that's more about like the planning and like, how they're strategizing for the future of their podcast. So that's usually those are the two or three questions that I ask to kind of drill into the core of what's motivating a podcaster.
Got it. Got it. So, James, moving on, tell me what's the next 100-day plan for James Loren?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's going to be doing more interviews and getting more of them completed in the can. I do want to start looking into opening up some sponsorships as well. But yeah, I mean, really, it's going to be focused on, meeting more podcasters and kind of growing the show. I mean, obviously, the marketing aspect of it is something that I am, considering as well. So, that's definitely in the future. Yeah.
Do you have any metrics for sponsors? Like how many people do you need before you can start making money and asking for money?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't actually. I haven't gotten that far in it. Like this is really a 2-week old, project for me. So I know that that is something that I need to start considering. So it's a good question.
What is the motivation that you made you have 30 podcasts in 14 days?
So I mean, initially when I went on and when I had this idea, I mean, the inception of it was, it would be nice to have something that is, earning income, right? That's obviously at the core. But as I got into the interviews and I started to meet these podcasters who are essentially in the same boat as me, some are, further down the road, some are, newer, but that what I really got out of this was a sense of community and just connection. And that really I knew I would love the conversations that I would have with people, but it was something that really kind of beats out the goal for money. It's just like I love the connection and the speaking with people, hearing what they're up to and being inspired. I just enjoy that so much. And if unfortunately, we do have to have money to support our
I know,
families and
I know, I
survive.
know.
So there's that side of it too. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but by the same token, I mean, it's really nice to be able to like speak with people around the world, almost every day for the last couple of weeks and just really get connected with them.
Excellent, excellent. I, this is going fast, so I have only one more question left. If you had no fear, absolutely, sorry, I have two questions. If you have absolutely no fear, what's that one thing you would do with your podcast?
Uh, no fear. What would I do with my podcast? Gosh, I don't know. That's a tough one. I I can't say. What would I do with the podcast? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. What do you mean by that? What would I do with
Would
the
you would you
podcast?
would you reach out to Mark Cuban and say, I'm hosting a show on Monday. I've already announced to the world that you're going to be there at 9 o'clock. The posters are out, and Mark
Yeah.
Cuban, you need to be there.
I mean, honestly, so I mean, celebrities are great and whatnot. I mean, really, I think my podcast is actually a little bit more. It's not on that level of like trying to attract that type of guest. I mean, I'm really about the people that are on the ground, like creating, and kind of, pulling themselves up by the bootstrap sort of concept. So, I mean, there are, I guess, other podcasters that have been around the scene for longer that I do like look up to, I guess, So, I mean, they're they're not on the Mark Cuban level of celebrity, but in the podcast world, I think they're well known, and I
John Lee
wouldn't mind having
Dumas,
them. I'm sorry.
John Lee Dumas.
No, not on that level either. Like Joe Rogan's not even on my radar either. It's I was a fan of paranormal podcasts. And so when I think about like, the like Jim Harold or the Astonishing Legend crew, like they would be fun to have on just because like I've listened to them for years and I would be humbled if they came on and like shared their wisdom about how they built their podcasts and the ups and downs and the advice that they would give new podcasters. So yeah.
Awesome. James, before we end, I have one last question. And this is a very emotional question. A lot of people get emotional. Actually, some guests also teared up when I asked this question last time. So if you don't want to answer it and it's too personal, you can choose to decline and you can say it's okay. You ready?
I think so.
Who are you a bigger fan of and why?
The Hulk.
The Hulk.
Yeah.
And why?
It's silly, but my youngest son's favorite color is green, and
Oh,
yeah. So I think he would love that. So I chose the Hulk.
lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Because why I ask this question at the end of every podcast, every talk is, you see in others, James, what you have inside of you. So if you chose if you the Hulk, then you have the ability to power through every situation, bulldoze your way through life if needed. Excellent,
Yeah, that's cool.
excellent, great. So I'm going to just pause the recording. So before we go, would you like to say anything to the audience?
Oh no, no, not at all. Just thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure.
I had this list of 10 questions. I didn't know they would go by so fast. You don't seem to be somebody who started 2 weeks ago. You seem to be somebody who knows what they're talking about. You have the gear set up. You have the intention set up. You know the guest that you want and you don't want. You know that it requires monetization. You already have sponsors reaching out to you. So my friend, I love, it's almost talking to you and having your step-by-step thing is just, maybe if your life and this last interview was a book, the cover of the book would be the 30-minute startup plan. Just start, right? And or
That's a good
or
title.
what else could it be? That don't overthink it, just do it, the money will follow. Or if you want to make it more marketing, it could be uh how I got sponsors for my podcast in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. That's good. I'll have to
Awesome.
remember
Awesome.
that.
Great. So I'm just going to pause the recording. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope you had a good time watching, and getting some nice, crisp, to the point answers from our friend here, James from San Diego. Uh, if I'm going to link up all of James' details in the comments, in the description. Please feel free to follow him, see what he's up to, and thank you very much for your time. Once again, this is AviArya, father of two girls, six dogs, husband to a superwoman, a streetcar racer turned hotelier, now social media marketer and founder of Internet Moguls, signing off for now.